So my topic is vaccinations. My thesis is vaccination should be given to those who are able to save and protect those who are unable. So there was an English researcher, his name was Andrew Wakefield, and he falsely linked the MMR vaccine to autism, causing panic and distrust in all vaccines. So my first genre is about Kate. She's an 11-year-old girl, and she goes to a school where a lot of their parents do not vaccinate their children, and she has an autoimmune disease called JDM, and basically her immune system just attacks itself. And she goes to the school that she was at. They were actually exposed to the measles because some of those kids were not vaccinated with the MMR vaccine, and so she actually had to spend her Christmas in the hospital because she couldn't, they were scared that she was going to get it, and if she got it, then that would be very bad for her and she may not recover from it. So she actually had to spend her Christmas in the hospital. And this really just shows what some kids go through because other people will not get their kids vaccinated. The second genre is actually a play script, and it's between two parents, Laura and Karen. Laura is actually in the medical field and she knows all about vaccinations, and Karen just read Wakefield's article, and Wakefield actually, I'll get into it a little later whenever I talk about the article I wrote about him, but he falsely linked the MMR vaccine to autism. So Karen thinks that that's about all vaccines, and she also thinks that it's true, which it's not. So Lauren and Karen are talking, and Karen is trying to understand why vaccinations aren't bad, and Laura is just telling her about why they are good and why you should get them. And it's just two parents concerned about their children and one knowing more about a vaccination than the other. My third genre is an article that I wrote. It's called Trusting Vaccines, and it's all about Andrew Wakefield and what he did to cause the mistrust in everybody about vaccinations. So the first paragraph just talks about how the vaccination levels dropped. It talked about who he is, what he did, and that he falsely linked the MMR vaccine to autism. And this experiment was actually proven wrong very many times. A whole decade of research was dedicated to actually disproving him and showing him that it's not true. And there were also it talks about how he used unethical treatment of the kids. He actually didn't use the children's actual medical records. He just used parental recall and memory, and that is not scientific one bit. The second paragraph is a lot of information about herd immunity and why people not getting vaccinated is such a bad thing for not only the person not getting vaccinated, but for everybody else involved as well. So herd immunity is basically a way for those who cannot physically get a vaccination to stay safe. So if 95% of the population is actually vaccinated, then that 5% that has autoimmune disorders and things like that, so where they can't get vaccines, they'll be safe. And basically Wakefield's article dropped the vaccination rate from 95% to 85% in England, and this caused many outbreaks, and it actually hurt many people that couldn't physically get the vaccinations even if they wanted to. So my final genre is actually a letter from a parent to the elementary school that her kid went to. It's a fictional elementary school called Oak Plains. And basically her son Max was diagnosed with acute lymphomatic leukemia, and he could not get any of his further vaccinations because he was at such a young age. And whenever he was enrolled in first grade, he went to a school that was kind of against vaccinations once again, and she tried to pull him out whenever they learned that he had cancer because she didn't want anything getting to him because he couldn't get those vaccinations. And so the principal assured her that everything would be okay, they'd have everything under control if anything did happen. Well, eventually the school didn't let them know that there was a measles outbreak until a few days after, and Max ended up getting measles, and he actually ended up passing away. And it really shows that basically anything can happen.